Hello and welcome to the news at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you live from the nation's capital city, Abuja. I'm Dennis Adigunloy. The headlines. Sugar production to receive boost as federal government sets up $73 million intervention fund for irrigation. Reactions as President Buhari withholds assent to Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021.
What is important is to ensure that whatever process you choose in your particular circumstance still provides a process that is as free.
House of Representatives passes 2022 budget. Plus, President Buhari gets booster shot of COVID-19 vaccine. Now the details. A $73 million intervention fund for irrigation has been set up by the federal government towards boosting sugar production across the country as part of the Backward Integration Program. Already, an all-encompassing presidential intervention project on irrigation infrastructure has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari towards achieving this objective. State House correspondent Adam Sambu has details.
Records show that out of the nearly 165 countries producing sugar in the world, none in sub-Saharan Africa is enlisted amongst the first 10 sugar producers. Similarly, in Africa, the continent's largest economy, Nigeria, could not make the first 10 sugar-producing countries despite its enormous potentials, a situation the Buhari presidency described as unacceptable. This presidential intervention project, inaugurated on behalf of the president, is to, amongst others, support the development of irrigation infrastructure on 10,000 hectares of sugar plantations in Numan, Adamawa State, Sunti, Niger State, Lafiaji, and Bashita in Kwara State, as well as Toto and Tunga in Nasarawa State.
The aim is to increase significantly and improve the country's performance in cane yields so that we can work within the National Sugar Development Plan, Sugar Master Plan, with a view to Nigeria becoming self-sufficient in the provision of sugar and possibly also become a net exporter of sugar, thus saving the country a large bill that it presently incurs in foreign exchange for importation of sugar.
And our own aim is to create this conducive environment that will attract more investment, that in shortest period, we will reach our self-sufficiency in sugar production. We believe that Nigeria is in strategic position, going from what we've started doing from today, that we can satisfy these 11 million metric ton shortage that we have in Africa.
The Central Bank of Nigeria is involved in the provision of the required funding for the project as part of the National Sugar Master Plan, and Governor Abdullahi Sule, Chairman, Sugar Producing States in Nigeria, is a critical stakeholder.
Sugarcane is best produced when you can irrigate. That is the reason why this irrigation process is very, very important. And like the Honorable Minister mentioned, for us in Nasarawa, we are extremely excited about this because it is an opportunity, to create employment, to create the value chain. This is good for Nigeria and is indeed good for Nasarawa State. And it's an opportunity for Nigeria to save FX. Today, we are spending not less than $700 million in the importation of sugar.
Some major operators of the Backward Integration Program described the move to enhance sugar production in Nigeria as appropriate and timely.
We're really excited. This is an important opportunity for all the players in the industry. and also for Nigeria. I don't think there's ever been any, intervention in the agricultural infrastructure for up to 10,000, hectares at one single time.
So this is very, very important for Nigeria for development of sugar industry. And as has been said, that this is a green industry. It doesn't create any kind of pollution. As the whole world is now going for the green fuel, so sugar industry is green in all its respect.
During the event, several agreements were signed by the stakeholders to fast-track the development of the various sugar plantations in the country towards producing sugar, ethanol, and power. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai of Kaduna State has formally briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the recent attacks by bandits in parts of the state, which resulted in the deaths of nearly 40 villagers. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that the president also granted audience to Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State.
Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, who was accompanied to the State House by the State Commissioner for Internal Security, Samuel Aruan, gave detailed briefing to the president on the attacks on 5 villages in Giwa local government area recently. He said 40 villagers were killed by the bandits, who also burnt down houses and agricultural produce in the unfortunate incident described as one of the worst in the state.
There has been some improvement in Kaduna State, but this incident was quite a shock to us. And in my view, it is because the operations are being carried out piecemeal in states. So when they are attacked in one state, they move to another. The president was saddened by these attacks and promised to continue to support the Kaduna State government in every way to bring an end to these challenges. He'll be holding meeting with the security chiefs in the next few days to further articulate a holistic strategy to address the insecurity in the Northwest in particular.
The governor also briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the state's infrastructural development drive and formally invited him to personally inaugurate those already completed.
And we're really looking forward to him coming and to make him proud. People have asked us, where did you get the money to do these projects? We've been prudent. We've been saving our money. We've not been wasting our money on recurrent expenditure. We also negotiate very good prices with contractors, and we don't expect contractors to give us any kickbacks or whatever. So we do get good prices from them.
President Muhammadu Buhari also granted audience to the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum and governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. The governor appreciated the president for his efforts at stemming the tide of insecurity in the country and dealing with the nation's economic challenges.
I came to see the president in my capacity as the chairman of the Nigerian governors and to express, as I said, gratitude for his approval of the bridge finance, and is also to let him know some of the steps we are taking in our various states to also fundamentally address this lack of revenue, because we have a challenge in this country and tokenistic support will not do. The truth of the matter is the country is not as buoyant as most people think it is. And one of our suggestions to Mr. President is clearly that we need to create the enabling environment that would give those who can provide such support for the country the confidence to want to invest in the future of Nigeria.
The meetings are in furtherance of President Buhari's strategic engagement with a broad spectrum of Nigerians towards addressing critical national issues. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The Nigeria Governors Forum has formally reacted to the decision by President Muhammadu Buhari to withhold assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, saying the Nigerian leader needs to be commended for standing with the people. The chairman of the forum and governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, who spoke to newsmen after an audience with the president, insists that for the state governors, it does not matter whether primary elections are held through a direct or indirect mode.
what is governor's interest and concern is that opportunities are given for an inclusive process. And I think that is what Mr. President's letter has brought out. Mr. President has not objected to direct primaries. Neither has he endorsed indirect primaries. He has only said, be fair to all. Let all options apply. And what you decide should be determined by your own local and peculiar circumstances, being mindful of questions of security, finances, and democracy, internal democracy. So I think all should commend the courage of Mr. President to stand with the people. And the President, just like me, is not afraid of whatever mode you decide to use. When I chaired the primaries, the historic primaries that brought him in as a presidential candidate, I was the chair of that primary in 2014. It was an indirect primaries. But in 2019, when he was coming back, he came back via a direct primary. So Mr. President has also tasted both. And I don't think it's somebody to be lectured about the pros and cons of either processes. What is important is to ensure that whatever process you choose in your particular circumstance still provides a process that is as free a manner as possible. There is no completely free process, but at least there is something that is called substantial compliance in electoral law. And if it meets substantial compliance, I think all of us should be happy with that.
Dr. Kayode Fayemi speaking. Now, the federal government is committed to sustaining production of relevant statistical information needed for effective tracking and monitoring of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said this during the launch of the baseline report and realignment of the National Statistical System with Sustainable Development Goals 2020. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
It is the official launch of the baseline report and realignment of the National Statistical System with Sustainable Development Goals 2020 here at the banquet hall of the State House. To Nigeria and the rest of the African countries, the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals is crucial to the task of ending hunger, poverty and disease, as well as safeguarding the environment and creating jobs. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says these goals are also central to the vision of the Buhari administration, which is committed to lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within a 10-year period through social investment plans.
There is no question that the Nigeria SDGs Implementation Plan 2020 to 2030 offers a coherent pathway for achieving the expected outcomes in the next decade. One of the areas of marked improvement in this document that we're presenting is the increased range of reporting from the 126 indicators recorded in the 2016 baseline report to the 141 indicators in the current 2020 report.
The report, as explained by the Bureau of Statistics, provides an update of the data contained in the baseline report 2016 for monitoring and evaluating the progress being achieved in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria and the ongoing realignment process of the Nigerian statistical system with the Sustainable Development Goals.
With this launch, we'll be able to track our progress on the SDGs more accurately on an annual basis. Our approach ensures that the SDGs are central to our national development efforts and are indeed policy priorities for the foreseeable future. Clearly, all of these policy and planning documents bear the imprint of the SDGs as overarching national priorities.
This event will mark yet another landmark in the strive towards sustained development in Nigeria.
Affirming Nigerian commitment on behalf of Mr. President to the successful implementation and even acceleration of SDGs in Nigeria.
The office is also giving out these 19 ambulances to support and strengthen healthcare system at the sub-national level. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo inaugurated the ambulances to cap the event. From the banquet hall of the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
The News at 10 is reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Stay with us. More reports after this break.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Star Times, Channel 101, Green TV, Channel 743, DSTV, Channel 419, N4TV, Channel 416.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Twitter at NTA News 24, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
Thanks for remaining with us. Now to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives has passed the 2022 appropriation bill of 17.126 trillion naira. This represents an increase of 735.8 billion naira on the amount initially submitted by the President. Also passed was the Finance Bill 2022 to support the budget's implementation. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that after passing the budget, the House adjourned plenary to 18th of January next year.
Authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 17,126,873,917,692 naira only.
At this accelerated legislative process to ensure sustenance of the January to December budget cycle, the House of Representatives at this sitting considered, approved and passed the 2022 budget estimate after the presentation of the report by the House Committee on Appropriation.
The highlights of the budget based on 2022-2024 MTEF parameters as approved by the National Assembly are as follows. Oil benchmark $62 per barrel, daily output production 1.88 million per barrel, exchange rate 410.15 per US dollars.
Out of the 17.126 trillion naira approved, 6.9 trillion naira is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, 5.4 trillion naira is for contribution to development fund, 3.8 trillion is for debt service, while 869.6 billion naira is for statutory transfer. Sectoral breakdown of the budget shows defense taking the largest amounts with an allocation of more than 996 billion naira. Police got more than 518 billion naira, while education was allotted 598 billion naira, followed by health, which got more than 462 billion. The proposal from the President as budget for 2022 submitted to the National Assembly was 16.39 trillion naira. Meanwhile, President Muhammad Buhari has written the National Assembly seeking approval for environment to fund critical expenditure and extension of implementation of the capital components of the 2020-2021 budget from December 31st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022.
This is a tradition, and it is in the best interest of our people and the interest of the policies and programs of the government of Muhammad Buhari.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Away from the National Assembly, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing has received more than 621 billion naira as extra sum for the rehabilitation of 21 federal highways. This is coming from the NNPC Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that a tripartite MOU was signed at the ministry headquarters.
This is a unique pen-to-paper ceremony is sealed to a memorandum of understanding between the NNPC, FIRS, and the Ministry of Works and Housing. It is expected to bankroll the fixing of 21 critical highways across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. More than 621 million naira is involved in the deal. It will go directly to the coffers of the contractors handling the rehabilitation of some of Nigeria's critical highways, begging for attention.
NNPC is not taking over our roads. NNPC is not constructing roads. NNPC is just putting forward its tax liabilities to the person who is supposed to collect it, FIRS, and we are dedicating it to these roads that have been awarded, some of them over 10 years, that should have been completed, but for insufficient budgetary provisions.
We find this tax credit scheme a very important way by which we can step in to support the Federal Ministry of Works in funding this roadmap, a number of these roads. We have selected about 21 roads.
This is actually unprecedented and very necessary for us to be able to fix the roads in Nigeria.
The closure of this deal means that in the next couple of months, the selected highways for rehabilitation will be completed, and once again, putting smiles on the faces of motorists plying those highways. In Abuja, Abdullahi Mohammed, NTA News.
Minister of State for Environment Sharon Ikeazo says the federal government will engage all stakeholders, including the Bayelsa State government, in investigation of the Santa Barbara oil spill in Nimbe. The intention of the federal government, she says, is to achieve a comprehensive and unbiased outcome in the inquiry. Onengie Fineface reports.
In keeping with the promise of transparent and thorough inquiry of the circumstances that led to the Nimbe spill, Minister of State Environment Sharon Ikeazo ordered the immediate joint investigation visit to the wellheads in a few days. In a meeting with the Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doye Diri, at Government House in Egua, the minister insisted on a credible and open investigation.
You can't have that JIV without representatives from the host community, and in that case, the host state government. Nothing should be cloaked, nothing should be covered.
It is a commitment that addresses the concerns of the state governor to see that the right steps are taken to solve the problem at hand and prevent any recurrence of oil spills in the state.
Our umpires will work globe in hand with the Bayelsa state government, and we will see a transparent process. And as you have rightly directed, that all media houses interested will be there to see it.
The major target of the joint investigation is to determine whether the spill at Santa Barbara was as a result of equipment failure or due to third-party sabotage. Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
In the meantime, the federal government says Nigeria is strictly adhering to the judgments by the International Court of Justice, ensuring total compliance with the ongoing demarcation of the Bakassi Peninsula and adjoining boundaries between the country and Cameroon. Director General, National Boundary Commission, Adamu Adaji, disclosed this during an end-of-year interactive session with media practitioners in Abuja. Olusheye Adeagbo reports.
It is almost 20 years the United Nations principal judicial organ, International Court of Justice, pronounced the final judgment that determined the boundary tussle between Cameroon and Nigeria.
This is a boundary that was decided.
Director General of the National Boundary Commission explains that the Cameroon-Nigeria Mixed Commission handling the exercise has resolved 16 out of 20 disagreement areas, with expectations of finalizing outstanding ones next year.
What we're doing now is trying to implement that judgment, assessment of the entire stretch of the boundary, and most especially the demarcation of the boundary physically on ground, to make it very visible.
On the issue of interstate boundaries, he explains that Nigeria houses 86, but only about 30 have been resolved. He linked the challenge of not recording desired success over the years to lack of cooperation from the sub-nationals.
The chairman of the National Boundary Commission, His Excellency Professor Eni Osinbajo, has graciously shown commitment and interest. He intends to call a broader meeting very soon, where some of these issues of the non-cooperation by some states will be addressed.
The National Boundary Commission emphasizes that Nigerians are also coming to terms on resolving the long-running issues of border management in the country. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has taken the booster shot of the COVID-19 vaccine. This is to further demonstrate leadership in the renewed drive towards controlling and containing the global health challenge. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The booster dose of the COVID-19 vaccine was administered on President Muhammadu Buhari by his chief personal physician, Dr. Suhaib Sanusi Rafindadi. Though devoid of any formal ceremony, this could best be described as a symbolic confirmation of the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. It was also a demonstration of faith in the vaccination exercise. President Muhammadu Buhari's e-vaccination card was thereafter presented to him by the Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuhaib.
And what we're seeing from the data is that COVID-19 is now mostly a disease of the unvaccinated. Out of every 10 people that have died, the data shows that 8 of them are unvaccinated. So there's a greater likelihood of dying from COVID-19 if you're unvaccinated. What Mr. President has done today is again to indicate to all Nigerians that the federal government does everything to make sure that only safe and efficacious vaccines are brought into Nigeria, and that when they are brought into Nigeria, we'll double check to make sure that it fits the very high standards that have been set by NAFDAC. So when you go to any health facility, when you go to any mass vaccination site, one thing that should be clear in your mind is that this vaccine that is going into your body is safe and is going to protect you against severe forms of COVID-19. It will also protect you from dying from COVID-19. That is the assurance that we're giving Nigerians.
Meanwhile, one after the other, personal aides to the Nigerian leader took turns to be vaccinated, also for the third time, in line with the COVID-19 safety advisory by the World Health Organization.
So please stop hesitating, stop having any doubts. It is a question of integrity for us that we do the right thing. And we are showing through leadership from Mr. President, the governors, the legislators that have come out openly to take these vaccines, that these vaccines are exactly what we need to be able to protect our health and then begin to build back our economy. To get the booster shot, all you need to do is go to the nearest health facility or any vaccination center with your vaccination card, and you will get the booster shots. We're making the vaccines available all across the country, so you don't have to go too far from where you live or from where you work. When you get your booster shot, you actually get better protection against the Omicron variant.
Records show that over 8 million Nigerians have now been vaccinated against COVID-19. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The federal government, through the Directorate of Technical Aid Corps, has deployed 74 medical workers to Guinea-Bissau to help boost the nation's healthcare system. Benny Adams reports that the deployment is in fulfillment of President Muhammadu Buhari's promise to his Guinea-Bissau counterpart earlier this year.
Now, throughout the 20th century, part of the modernists revolted against the use of traditional materials in fine arts and the desire to prove that art can be made out of anything.